Hello everyone, my name's Devyn. Thank you for watching my performance of Köhler's 20th Romantic Etude. I will now give you some tips so you can practice this and perform this yourself. So this etude is titled The Dove, and this is quite strange because this etude is allegro, it's fast, and doves I don't think are known for being extremely fast. Even though it's written allegro, I don't think you really have to perform it that quickly. It's written molto legato, which means long, which is kind of contradictory to the allegro marking anyways. And honestly, it's quite difficult to play fast. So I wouldn't go through the struggle of practicing this really quickly at a presto tempo because I think that's not completely necessary, and I don't think that that's necessarily the emotion of this piece. For me, the most important thing in this movement is to recognize, of course, where the melody is. It's a series of 16th notes almost straight through, and I think you kind of have to isolate what notes you think are important so you can emphasize that in your playing. Köhler does this for us. He writes some accent marks, for example in the first measure the F sharp, in the second measure the D, but I think we could take this one step further and pretty much accentuate the first note of every beat. It's in 2/4, so it's not meant to be the way that it's structured metrically. I think you can think of it more into like this. This way we have longer notes and longer phrases. And really the melody, when you just play it by itself, is and you can see this very clearly if you just, pretty much what I did in my part is just highlight the first notes of every beat, and I did it in red, so that means loud and energetic. Because if you accentuate these notes, that is what will come through in your performance, instead of all of these and of course these notes are important as well, but they're not the melody. They're just, flourishes on the melody. Measure 3 and 4 are particularly difficult for our fingers, and a tip that I have to sort of get you through this and get you practicing it in a way that will actually help you, I would recommend slicing it up into different sort of sections. The first one could be, and then, and then you sort of have the structure of this pretty much set out. I mean, I'm missing the high G, but if you just practice. And then if you put it together, I mean, you have the whole structure laid out in your mind, so it actually makes it easier, or it tricks your brain into thinking that it's easier for your fingers instead of that is a lot for your brain to deal with, and it's gonna show in your fingers not being as even. In terms of breathing for this etude, there is really one rest. Köhler doesn't leave a lot of trails as to where to breathe. And so in pieces, in etudes like this, I would recommend sort of just playing the melody and then maybe identifying where a sentence begins and ends. Because after a sentence ends, after a phrase ends, then you can take a breath, and it won't obstruct from the harmony, so to speak. Even though it's straight 16th notes, you would think, oh, I just have to sneak in a breath somewhere and hope that no one notices. I would really not recommend playing like this, because that way you're not going to have enough air and you're not going to have the ability to play longer phrases as you should. And it's just not going to sound musical if you do this sneaking in a breath sort of thing. So I would recommend playing the melody like I did before. You can kind of hear where Köhler wants you to take the breath just by playing the most important notes. For example, if I play the whole melody again, I'm going to play it a little bit faster so you get the idea. That's sort of decaying, so if you want, you could take a breath after that, and then and obviously this resolves, and as you hear it resolving, C, C, D, C, B, you can easily identify that you would take a breath after the B, and I completely recommend singing this. Don't just play it on the flute, also sing the melody, because if you sing, you'll hear it. Because my theory is, when you're singing, your brain is thinking more musically than technically. Because when we're playing the flute, this is really just a tube, you know, with keys. And when we're thinking, you're really thinking about every individual note, and your fingers, whether you think so or not, are thinking about every individual note. So it's easier to sing this and then realize, oh, that's where a singer would take the breath. And I think that's really important to recognize. So let's talk about this honky low note section that we have just 6 lines down. I would recommend here, again, isolating the notes that are important, and it's even marked for us. And you can hear the intensity in my sound. You don't want to be playing sort of because that's not the tone color. This is meant to be loud, energetic music. And when doing this, I want you to focus on keeping the air pointed down. You don't want to blow out of the flute. And you know, I'm blowing a lot of air. It's just not a lot of air is going down into the hole. So for the low notes, I really want you to think about pointing the air down. And to do this, you need to use your top lip. And I would recommend maybe making sure you're not covering the hole completely with your bottom lip. Because if you're covering, it's going to make it very difficult to get the air down into the hole that you're covering. Focus on having the hole a little bit open, more open than you're used to, and then using your top lip to really get that air down. And if you're interested in producing better sounding low notes, I would really recommend watching my video on how to play low notes loudly on the flute. I go very far in depth on this very specific topic and very hard thing that we have to deal with as flute players. The last thing that I'll leave you with is, of course, the last note. This is a B, and we're going from a little bit lower in the flute's range to a B above the staff. And I think this note particularly would be flat for most people if no adjustments are being made. If I try to do nothing with my mouth or my lips here, or my airspeed, this is what it would sound like. And as you can tell, that's pretty flat. So when you're going up in this last beat here, I'm thinking about bringing forward my bottom lip so as to point the air a little more forward, a little higher, instead of into the flute like we were doing for the low notes earlier. Because this will bring the pitch up. If we're rising the air, it will bring the pitch up. Another thing to think about is keeping a nice small aperture. This is the opening of your lips, because if your aperture is very wide open, you're going to get a lot of fluff in the sound, and the airspeed will be slower, so the pitch will naturally drop. It might even be tempted to go down to the lower B, because that is sort of the embouchure that you would want for a lower note. So I don't recommend squeezing the lips, but just focusing on getting the lips a little more focused, a little bit more in the right place. That will really help the pitch for that last note. Anyways, I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you would like to learn more from me, I teach lessons online at devynflute.com. You can book lessons with me there. I would love to work with you no matter your skill level. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!